Guys, welcome back to the Merry Boozers RC channel. Tonight we have the build video of the Ohio Model Products Challenger. This is a PNP Balsa airplane. We're so excited. You can have this airplane together in roughly 20 minutes and be ready to go out to the field and fly it. I would even dare say you could build this at the field. I'm not quite that brave. I'm going to do it from the comfort of the shop tonight, and hopefully with this video we can teach you how to get the airplane built. So I have already got out of the box. I pulled some of the pieces off and just checked for damage, and now we're going to get you some shots and then we are going to get to building. Alright, first step we're going to do is get the tail put onto this airplane. Those of you that have built a balsa plane before might know this, but I'm going to take a little bit of the monocoat off right here around where my actual glue joint's going to be. This tail does screw on, but I'd feel more safe with knowing this is glued in here. So what we're going to do is go on and button this on here, and there's two pre-drilled holes, and we're going to go on and just put a screw in there just to hold while we got it. We're going to have to actually adjust before we really glue this in there. But for now, just to hold it, like I said. Whoop. All right, now that we've got those in there holding it, I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to take a marker or a pencil or whatever you want to use, and I'm going to mark this to where I know where the edge of both sides is. So now I can flip it back over. Pop these back out. And we can see where that tail is now. What I want to do is cut this about the width of this screwdriver inside out so that I have bare balsa. So when I glue this to this, it's bare balsa to bare balsa. So I'm going to set this on the table and we're going to cut this out. So the goal is to leave enough to where it tucks under the tail when we glue it, but far enough in to where it has a good surface to glue to. And the reason you leave a little bit on the outsides is so that as it gets hot out in the sun, that this has room to shrink and expand. And you don't have to be perfect. This is going to be underneath the airframe, as we said earlier. Now we just need to get it to pick and peel just enough to get a hold of it. Oops. 2 pieces of monocoat here. Actually, let me get all the way through them. Like that. Oh, blurry. All right, now that we've cut that out, there's another little hole right here hiding under the monocoat. It may be done on yours, it may not. I took just a nice little sharp file, needle, pushed it in there, you know, cleaned up the monocoat on both sides. That's gonna be for your tail wheel to go through. Your tail wheel assembly looks like this right here. Your tail wheel passes through this back hole, like so. And then you take that through that little hole you just poked. Sort of, kind of, there we go. And that goes in there like that. Now, we take and line everything up. Find our holes. There they are. So I got that first screw in just to kind of hold stuff for a second. I'm going to take some slow Zap CA and just put a few drops on here. This is going to help shore up the wood when I get it down in there and keep this screw from ever coming loose now. Look at it. I got another one. And that gets that. I will put the other screw in here. I'm gonna wait for just a minute until we glue the tail on though, because I think this one's not pre-drilled and I may have to drill that. All right, now, if you wanted to use an epoxy, you could have put an epoxy on before you put this on that was a slow curing. I'm gonna use just a little bit of thin CA. Come in from the side with my little schnooter and let that just soak down in there. Just like that. Hit the other side. That thin CA will run all up in there though. No problem. Just like that. Now we're gonna let that set and stick, and then that will be good to go. All right, I picked it up for a second just to make sure the tail was straight. My tail wheel assembly is just a hair off kilter, but the tail itself is straight, which is all that matters. I'm gonna take and just do a small hole, pilot drilled, just like that. And take my last screw, same thing as before. I'm gonna put a little CA on it and put it in there. Now, if you don't wanna do the CA part, you don't have to. It's just something I like to do. It will make it very difficult to get these out in the future if you ever break it. So don't break it. But I also know that that screw is not gonna come out of there now. And see, the tail would be fine without gluing it. It's pretty stout, but I am gonna glue it. So that gets the bottom part put on. All right, so you've got your tail all glued on. Next step is to put our rudder on. Yours might be different. Mine does not have a hole here, but there is a little lip right below this control horn. That little lip, there should be a hole right here. That's where your rudder or your tail wheel is supposed to go. So all I'm gonna do is just make a hole for it real quick. No big deal. I'm gonna start a pilot right in the middle. And then I'm going to take a drill bit and ever so slightly drill me a hole. Now we can test fit it to make sure that I made it big enough and deep enough, and I did. So now, slide this over here. What we got to do is put this little piece, here, Lori's readjusting. We got to put this little piece in here, and then put our hinge tabs in, just like so. Nothing to it, right there. Now, we just make sure everything fits how we want it right now before we glue. So these are CA Wicking hinges. Laura, if you could tilt the camera up just a little bit. So we're all good to go right now. I'm going to take my thin CA. I'm going to get this turned over just enough to where I can get in there to that hinge. And give it a shot of CA. Same thing on the other hinge. And this will get in there. I can feel it already stiffening up, so wiggle it a little bit. Now I'm going to do the other side. Let's see here before you can see it. Just like that. Now we're going to let that set for a few minutes. Make sure it's still got play in it, and then that's glued on. All right, on to the landing gear. We're going to get these loosened up out of there. They are going into a metal blind nut on the back side. Take our wheels. They only go one way, as you can see. Optional step, but if you got it, a little bit of blue Loctite. Dab will do ya. All right, we're gonna start now getting the wings put on. Magnetic trays, or magnetic hatches all over this airplane. These magnets are super duper strong too. So no worries about losing these hatches in flight. We're gonna slide our carbon spar up through this front hole. Get our wing halves. Pass our servo extension wire through. Let's get the other wing going too. Whoop. There we go. And then the plane comes with these 2 nylon bolts. Lori, could you zoom in just a little bit? No? Okay. Okay. Plane comes with these 2 nylon bolts. that just finger tighten on the inside. Try and pick it up here so I can show you this. All right, so I've fired up the model. I added my own receiver. Guys, you're gonna have to pick whatever you want, but you can see that it's on right now and that servo is moving. This means that all of my servo horns are centered at this point. If you do have one that's off, you need to make sure it's perfectly up and down on the tail. And now you're gonna take your control rods, and we want to make this to where the elevator is flat. All right, here. So if you want to grab you a straight edge to look, something like this, to where you know that that is straight. And now, if we were to hold this, very awkward to try and show this on camera, but I can see that I need to go out just a little bit. So I'm going to take and loosen this. If you needed it to go in, you would tighten it. I did 3 turns. I'm gonna go on and just snap one of these in to make this easier to film. On the money. So now we can snap that in. They're tight. Man, they are really tight. Woo! Help if I put it on the right way. It only goes one direction. There we go. Perfect. Now we need to do the same thing on the other side for the rudder. Almost there. Oops. Almost. Oh, yeah. Ta-da! All right, let's get the ailerons on. We're still powered up. I'm gonna take this loose because the balls are on the back side and I just don't know if I'd ever get that snapped in there. It's easy enough to just pull the servo horn off. Yeah, I don't think I'd ever got that on there with it on the airplane. There we go. I'm going to look down the end of the wing and make sure the aileron is straight to the best of my ability. It needs to go out just a little bit. So I'm going to do one full turn, clip it in, take another look. Looks perfectly straight to me. Put that screw back in, and then we just got to do it on the other side. And guys, I have left the prop off this whole time. The propeller is definitely the last thing you want to do on your airplane. I'm going to get that other one snapped on. It goes on just like this side. Our last thing we're going to talk about here, the airplane's pretty much assembled. Props off, I've got my radio bound up, everything's centered. So now we've got to talk about dual rates before we button this up. So I have 100% ailerons, and these are some fast servos on this plane. They didn't cheap out on those. So you can see that's me really rocking them. That's 100% throw. So I went 100 with 20% expo, 75, 20% expo, and 50, 20% expo. For you guys that are using this more as a trainer, you're probably gonna want those ailerons at 50 because these are some serious ailerons on this airplane. On the elevator, I have 90, which is gonna be way too much unless you're doing loops and crazy stuff. 75 and 50. 20% expo all the way around, and the rudder was a little ridiculous, so I went on ahead and toned it down to an 80% throw. Now this is all in Spectrum. If you're running Tyrannus or a different radio brand, you know, just kind of play that by ear. But I'm gonna start here for my initial flights. I did check, the motor is going the right direction, and everything should be ready to go. So I'm gonna put the prop on, and this bad boy is ready to get out to the field.